Chairman Isaacson, Ranking Member Blumenthal, members of the Committee on Veterans Affairs. It is a distinct honor to appear before you today as a military retiree and a female combat veteran. As a woman veteran, I have a personal stake in seeing that the unique issues we face are addressed and addressed properly, so that future servicewomen do not face the same obstacles that this committee is assembled here to address today. And while there are many concerns to tackle, I would like to take this opportunity to concentrate on the one that has proved most difficult in my own life: access to and the quality of care at the VA. As a patient at the VA, I have received some of the best care and from some of the best doctors. However, that experience is tempered by the fact that I have also received some of the worst care, not only by doctors and care providers, but by the system itself. For years, I complained to my doctors at the VA of numerous symptoms that were summarily dismissed. I was told I was too young to have any issues. I was told the basic blood work came back normal. And the ultimate betrayal, I was told I was not really being honest. These symptoms worsened and worsened until finally I was forced to pursue medical advice out of the VA and on my own. Once my blood work and MRIs proved positive for Cushing's disease and the brain tumor that caused it, the VA started to take me seriously. It's hard to argue when you're staring at an MRI with a big white mass in the middle of someone's head. But the years of suffering, both physically, mentally, and emotionally, that I had to endure in order to get someone just to listen is not something I would wish on anyone, and something that should not happen to any veteran. The road to recovery for Cushing's patients is not easy. There are countless tests and months of observation and the inevitable brain surgery. There are the frequent visits to endocrinology, neurology, the ENT. The list is very long. But what complicates this is that at the VA, you may never see the same doctor twice. So not only do you have to repeat your story to every specialist under the sun, you have to repeat it to a revolving door of white coats who are hearing it for the very first time. Or even worse, the specialist you may need to see may have left, and it may be months before a new one is found. And you can even get an appointment. I know this because I have lived it. While I was stationed at New York City, I had to travel to 3 separate VA facilities in 3 separate boroughs because no one facility had all the specialists I needed. For allergy treatments alone, I had to travel from Brooklyn to the Bronx, sit through what could easily be hours in traffic, and $30 in tolls for a 15-minute appointment. Coordination of care is essential in any system that aims to treat the whole person. And at the VA, this system is counterproductive to enabling this process. Prior to my brain surgery, which the VA only did on the second Tuesday of every month, my surgery date was canceled 3 separate times. So 3 separate times I prepped. I had family travel down from Rhode Island and take off work, as I could not be left alone for the first few days of recovery. And 3 separate times I was told another case was more important, they could not get all the required doctors in the same room together, or that the doctors did not have a chance to review my case. They would have canceled the 4th time had I and my family not contacted the patient advocate and voiced our complaints boisterously. After brain surgery, there were other nightmares. There was the MRI in which the attendant, rushing because I was the last patient before she could leave for the day, did not remove the metal nodes from my body, and too weak to squeeze the panic button because my arm was sewn to a stabilizer in order to keep the PICC line in, I could do nothing but weep silently while the metal nodes burned welts into my skin. There was the resident doctor who had not researched my disease before morning rounds, and not knowing the main symptoms of Cushing's is weight gain, could not tell if I was presenting because, quote unquote, I was too heavy. It's hard to have faith in a system when you know more about your condition than the doctors who are supposed to be treating you. Navigating the VA can be daunting, and even more so as a female veteran. The women's clinic is often well segregated from the rest of the facility. Oftentimes, you have to traverse to the basement of the hospital next to the lab to find it, and once you get there, it is obvious that it is an afterthought. As a resident of Ranking Member Blumenthal's district in Connecticut, he knows well of what I speak. Perception is part of the issue. For women veterans to feel like they belong, they need to know that their care is just as important as their male counterparts. They need to trust that their care providers, and they need to know that their care is a priority. In the past few years, I have seen with my own eyes the VA's renewed commitment to women's health, And while I am heartened to see these changes, I know that more needs to be done. Female veterans need quality health care now, and they need to be confident in that care so they are not afraid to access it. I thank you for your time this afternoon and the opportunity to appear before the committee. I thank you for allowing me to share my story, but remind you that my story is not unique. There are countless women veterans that have endured far worse than me, and it is for them that I am here today. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to invite Captain Mouradjian to be here today. And I'm familiar with your story, but I want to make sure that as much as possible of it is in the record, because other colleagues who are not here today or who may be unfamiliar with that very impressive story should also learn about it. And I appreciate the chairman's questions to you. And I just want to clarify that you actually had to seek help outside the VA simply to get a diagnosis of a problem that was bothering you for some time. Is that correct?
That's correct. I went to a doctor that I knew back home and described the symptoms to him, and he did some blood work, and it really only took one test. So it was pretty immediate after the blood work was ordered.
So if I were your mom or your parent, or if you were one of my two sons who has served in our military, one in the Marine Corps Reserve, the other in the Navy, my opinion would be, and I'd be angry about it, that the VA failed you.
My mother was very irate, yes.
And it was more than just the revolving door of white coats. It was the delay of the surgery, by my calculation, at least 3 months, because they only do the surgery on the Tuesday of 1 month. So your surgery for a very dire, potentially dangerous condition was delayed month after month after month. Is that correct?
It is one of the complications is because it's so rare, it's seen as an opportunity, I think, by the specialists in the community to observe. And, you know, for the patient, obviously the only cure is surgery, so you want to have that immediately. But, you know, I do realize the doctors, because of the rarity, wanted to sort of just test me and you know, collect some data. But unfortunately, at the VA, one of the other complications is oftentimes there's a protocol, so you're not necessarily allowed to be involved in your own care and make the choices that you think is appropriate for your own care.
When in fact, involvement of patients in care, listening to the patient, is one of the preeminent principles of modern healthcare. I'm not asking you as an expert because you're not a doctor, but I will say it for the record that most good docs will tell you, listen to the patient and heed what he or she has to say. You seem fine now, is that correct?
I am, thank you.
And tell us what you're doing at this point.
So currently, I work at Sikorsky Aircraft Corporation in the legal department. I actually received my law degree right after commissioning, and I'm a productive member, of the workforce, and I think, I'd like to be an example that you can be a veteran, you can be a disabled veteran, but you can still be productive and contribute.
And I can tell you my impression is, from what I have heard about your work, that you are more than just productive, you are very exceptional and expert at what you do. So I thank you for your service to our nation in the military, and I thank you for your service now.